Now, first up is Joe Pedotto's Attic Jukebox. Off we go to Brooklyn. I was there last night. Take it away. Roll it, Mr. Harp.
Come on, Danny, all the booze are filled. We can't get to hear anything.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, now, look, you might all be late for supper, and I'll have every mother in Brooklyn on my neck. Okay, I'll do it for you. Come on.
I can see a steeple surrounded by people. Oh, how real it all starts to seem. Just as the choir is singing, my alarm starts ringing. It's the same old dream. And then my thoughts inspire a scene by the fire in a cottage close by a stream. I know it all by heart now. We're about to part now. It's the same old dream. If you but knew how many times I pretend that I'm with you, I know your heart would unbend. You'd see me through until my dream had a happy ending. And I can picture clearly the things I love dearly, and in the center you reign supreme. We kiss and I discover that I'm the lonesome lover. It's the same old dream.
Well, didn't like the song, huh? Or maybe you didn't like the way I did it. Suppose you take a crack at it. Let me see what you can do with it.
I can see a steeple surrounded by people. Oh, see how real it starts to seem. If the choir's singing and then my clock starts ringing, it's the same old dream. My thoughts inspire scenes by the fire in a cottage close by a rippling stream. The rippling, you know it by heart now. We're just about to part now. It's the same old dream, slightly off the beat. The same old dream.
Thank you again, Joe. You know, seeing a wash line makes me reminisce about growing up in Manhattan. We actually had a wash line, which was basically a pole. Yeah.
That was largely shot in Park Slope in my old neighborhood in Brooklyn. For perhaps our international guests, one reason that Brownstone Brooklyn has stoops is because of the largely Dutch descendants who settled there. They built it in the style of their homes back in, where is it, Dutchland? The Dutch come from. What would be our second floor was really their first floor. So they would have an elaborate stairway that would lead up. That would be where you greeted people, where that was really the main door of your house. And the door that was on sidewalk level was considered your cellar door. We would consider it the first floor. So it is due to the Dutch that we have the stoop sale, because we have stoops.
I was going to say stoop.
And
so I'm wondering if that's okay. What is it? How did that word stoop end up? That got to be Dutch. I'm sure that you European guys know all those languages.
Well,
does anybody know where stoop came? Because it's like I've grown up on stoops. I know I sat on stoops, and certain guys were stoops. So it was, you know.
Well, yeah, that's where I think it comes from. It was a description of the people who were sitting there.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm comforted by that thought. Okay, well, somebody bounced it back to me.
Wait a minute. We have something from Mike Schoenborn. Stoop waffles. Don't know what that is. They sound delicious.
Yeah, but stay tuned for the after party when we will have a definition for the Middle English stoppin'.
Perfect.
Which could be it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. I spent, you know, it's funny because I'll move on quickly now, but you know, my friends, Johnny Bananas, my late Johnny Bananas, he lived a couple houses down from me. He had a big stoop, but basically the stoop steps were kind of worn out from walking up on, so they made kind of a perfect little, like a place to sit from just stepping up the things, you know. But we only had like a 2-step stoop. I don't know how we got on stoops, but it's fascinating to me. You know, she brought it up that they're actually the up and the down and the whole thing. You know, that's fascinating to me. I lived in a high-rise brownstone, 5 stories, right? They were like smaller, weren't they, in Brooklyn, right?
3 to 4. Although the one that I lived in was 5 stories.
Yeah, if you count the roof, it would be a little bit. They're actually 5 apartments, right?
And in 1989, you could have bought the entire building for less than $500,000.
Oh yeah, man.
Now the apartment in that building, the rooftop shots were taken from. The last time I looked, it was one apartment was 1.4 million.
When the place I grew up in Manhattan, you know, come on, that's the hoi polloi, baby. You know, you guys in Brooklyn, but anyway, the upper East Side, called Yorkville for another reason, and the Slocum. We tie a lot into that neighborhood. But anyway, let's get back to when we moved out for a terrace, man, and separate bedrooms in Queens. That would have been 1973 or 74. It was $75 a month for 5 rooms. Subsequently, I had friends who lived there. They chopped those in half and they took $2,500 a side now. So in other words, they chopped those 5 in half, so 2.5 rooms on each side. And they're about, they were like up to 2,500. I'm sure they were more than that right now, but $75. Actually, a guy who it was in a popular band, well, not popular, but like kind of a punk rock band, you would call it, the Fugs back in the 60s. Ed Sanders, when asked, when did the 60s end? His answer was perfect. When the rents went up. Usually people, if you didn't like where you lived, you say, I'll go across town, $25. I'll get another place. I'll live in another neighborhood. You can't. Now you need a FICA score. It's like great. You need like a good FICA score to move it to one of these. Anyway, but thank you very much. That brought back memories, and such is the life in New York. We're going to keep moving on. Again, thank you, Joe. Now we head on to another wonderful Paul Hutchins 3D Journeys, and this is going to be fun. Get your goggles on. Put on your headsets.
Sissinghurst and Great Dixter in southeast England were the homes of Zita Sackville West and Christopher Lloyd, who were influential garden designers of the mid and late 20th century. Zita Sackville West was born in 1892 and became a successful poet and garden designer. She married Harold Nicholson in 1913, and theirs was an open marriage. Both had affairs with men and women, and the author Virginia Woolf was one of her lovers. Harold and Zita bought Sissinghurst Castle in Kent in 1930. It was an Elizabethan ruin, and they would spend the next decades creating the gardens and making a home for themselves and their family. Zita experimented with the idea of garden rooms, which was a way of dividing a large garden into smaller enclosures. She made the White Garden, Rose Garden, Orchard and Cottage gardens in this way. She was not a trained horticulturalist or designer, but was self-taught, and in 1947 she had a weekly column called In Your Garden in the Observer newspaper. In 1948 she became a founder member of the National Trust Garden Committee. The National Trust now runs and maintains the grounds and gardens, which are open to the public. Christopher Lloyd was born in 1921 and became a prolific gardener, author and broadcaster. He was affectionately known as Christo and was born at Great Dixter, where he lived most of his life. The house was bought by his father in 1910, and the old manor was renovated and extended sympathetically by architect Edwin Lutyens. Lutyens was famous for his designs for the government buildings in colonial New Delhi. He is also known for British war memorials such as the Cenotaph in London and several First World War military cemeteries. This one featured here is Thiepval in France. Lutyens collaborated with garden designer Gertrude Jekyll on projects such as the renovation of Lindisfarne Castle on Holy Island in northeast England. Christo's parents both love gardening and passed it on to their son. They introduced him as a boy to Gertrude Jekyll, who taught him to appreciate mixed borders. In 1954, Lloyd set up a nursery specialising in unusual plants and opened the gardens to the public. He employed a team of gardeners, and his head gardener, Fergus Garrett, continues to look after the garden after Lloyd's death in 2006. The house and gardens are now run as a charitable trust and are open to the public. Christopher Lloyd's books are still popular and remain in print. And that's all for now.
Thank you again, Paul, for taking us on that wonderful journey. They're always so relaxing. Your voice is so soothing.
It doesn't feel like it when I listen to my own voice.
Well, it's the most optimistic optometrist I've ever bumped into.
Yeah, thank you.
I got to tell you, you have a very kind soul, and it shows up in those images, and it really is wonderful. Thank you very much for spending the time and
Pleasure.
putting those together for all of us. I really do, from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate it. See you later. Now we got a lot to cover today.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paul. You and the family. Thank you very much. Our guest this week is Jason Altis. He writes embedded software for autonomous vehicles and automated systems. And during his career, has developed systems for the Navy, John Deere, the folks who make a fancy farming equipment for agriculture, and Lear Mining. They make autonomous mining equipment that tears up the planet. I had to. No. Yeah. They're amazing machines, and it's incredible to have you here. Now, I can go on and on, but let me just say, he has serious computer chops. By just that small description, you could spend a half hour going through his accolades. But most of all, he's generous with his talent, and we're honored to have him with us today. We're extremely fortunate that he loves 3D and the world of ViewMaster. His YouTube channel is Code Makes It Go, is one big run-on word. And I ask you all to do me and yourself a favor and please subscribe to his channel. Also, while you're there, subscribe to ours, by the way. I think he has another one too. Subscribe to all his channels. Makes good sense, and it's good for him. It's good for everybody. You're going to love this guy. Now that I built you up, you can say bad things about me. Now,
Sure.
Now let me welcome Jason Altis. Take it away, Jason. I'll shut up now, finally.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that intro. I'm really happy to be here. It's been almost a year in waiting, so it's been a long time since I tried to get on the show, but happy to be here. So I am Jason Altis, and today I'm going to talk to you about a little tool I made called the View Remaster. It's a ViewMaster scanner. So, we all have had these ViewMaster toys. They're really cool. I've grown up with them. This is the one that I've had since I was a kid. My mom bought it for me when I was really young at a garage sale, and I kept it all my life. And I think the reason I kept it is because I always knew I wanted to do something with it. I wanted to build a scanner. Well, not when I was a kid, but when I got older and I realized I still had it, I wanted to build a scanner for it. So I just kept in my head, like a lot of these projects, and until one day I finally had time to build it. So that came about one year when my wife and I had a second child, and I was in the middle of getting my master's, and my father was having health issues, and I just started a new job. So I decided it'd be a really good time to start a YouTube channel. And let me share with you the page here. So this is my YouTube channel, and I have not a lot of videos, but I have quite a few projects in there. One of my favorite is with the Back to the Future car here. I actually rented a Back to the Future time machine from a museum to make that video. It was a lot of fun. But what we're going to be talking about today is this video here. It has about 11,000 views on it. And this was my ViewMaster rescanner that kind of took off a lot more than I expected it to. So today I'll be talking about that scanner and how I could I wanted to bring an idea how I could bring these old devices and these old reels into the 21st century. So I'd like to share with you the version 1 of the scanner, and I'll also show you version 2, which is a sneak peek that not many people in this world have seen before. I've been working on it for about a year now, and it's working really well. But before we get into that, real quick, I mentioned the Back to the Future video. I wanted to share with you the Back to the Future controller I made. Oh no, let me see if I can change my scanning. Oh, let me see. Okay, there it is. The background blur is really screwing this up. So this is the Back to the Future controller, but on the back of it, we have Christopher Lloyd actually signed it. So I wanted to share with you that. I thought it was really cool that I got him to sign it. But anyway, back to the reel scanning. So this is how I wanted to show you a quick video of how I got started. And I had a talk with my son about ViewMaster.
So before I started this project, I asked my son what he thought of the ViewMaster. I wanted a 7-year-old's opinion of what they thought of the vintage tech. Unfortunately, I don't have video of that conversation, so I had to recreate it from memory.
Emerson. Emerson. Hey, buddy. You awake? Dad! You're awake! Yeah, I'm awake. What's up? Hold on. Let me turn on the light. Hey, why are you still up? In any case, I have something important to talk about. Sure, Dad. This is a really convenient time to talk too, by the way. Sure is. Have I ever told you about the YouTube of the 1950s? No? But I feel like it was awesome. They called it the ViewMaster. Good golly. Sounds amazing. I wish I had one. Behold. I'll go ahead and load up a scene here for you. Here. Welcome to the future's past. Wow. This thing is cooler than I imagined. Is it 4K? I just wish it had sound. Hey, careful what you wish for. Obviously, they had an audio version. Same awesomeness as the other, just with mono stereo passively powered super lo-fi. Gee willikers, Dad. It's like Christmas all up in here. Maybe you can make one of your sweet Code Makes It Go videos. Video, hey? I could use a thumbs up. Why not? You're so smart. Thanks, Dad. Would you mind turning off the light on your way out?
That's how some of my videos go. I try to make them funny. At least I attempt it. My wife still doesn't think they're all that funny, but I don't know. I think she'll come around. So that's how this project got started. And now I'd like to share with you version 1 of this scanner. We could share the next video.
For this project, I made a ViewMaster reel scanner. This is a project I've been wanting to do for a very long time, so I'm excited to share it with you. In short, this scanner creates a video I can put on YouTube that looks like this. There are very minimal electronics required for this scanner. I chose the Arduino Nano for processing, an RGB ring LED for backlighting the slides, a position sensor to align each slide, and a stepper motor for the reel movement. Now for assembling all these parts. Starting with the platform, we will first mount our stepper motor. I ground down one side of each nut in order for them to fit. Next, we will add the position sensor and the position sensor mount. This will need to be adjusted later. Now, we will add in the backlight LED ring. Smush in the bearing. Then attach the pulley to the stepper motor. Final step for the platform is adding the center axle, the wheel spacer, and the reel mount. I'll tighten these together and it should spin freely at this point. If not, just adjust the position sensor until it does. This wheel has little tabs where the ViewMaster reel mounts to. Additionally, to ensure it stays flat, there is a magnetic ring to hold the reel down. This works really well for reels that are a little bit warped. Connecting all the components together in the scanner platform is basically complete. The whole reason I wanted RGB backlight is so I can do some color correction with faded reels. I control the colors through the serial connection on the Adreno Nano, which also powers the entire platform. Now that the platform is working, I need to add some cameras to capture the slides. Then I add the camera. The camera is an 8 megapixel USB camera that came with a 50mm adjustable lens that's removable. One of the more difficult things was adjusting the image so that each slide takes up as much viewing area as possible with the least amount of distortion. To accomplish this, I found that using an extension tube with a 30mm lens did the trick. I added a second USB camera to capture the entire reel and the text for each slide. After some experimenting, I needed to add more consistent lighting, so I added a photo light to a switch that the Adreno can control. So here is how this is working. First, I take a picture of the slide with the spotlight off and the backlight on. Then I take another picture with the spotlight on and the backlight off. This allows me to create a threshold image that I can use to accurately crop and rotate the backlit image. While the backlight is on, I take a picture of the reel and then crop out the slide text. I can then pass this cropped image of the text to an OCR library to help capture the text for me. I do this for the left and right slide and then repeat 7 times for each reel to create the video. So that was version 1. I have one of them here. It looks pretty basic, a pretty small scanner, but it got a lot done for us. Let me show you the website. I meant channel. So surprisingly, this scanner won a lot of rewards. I really didn't think many people would care about it since it was kind of old technology that I was trying to bring into the new world. But a little small community started going around it and got some popularity. So I started up this Reel 3D channel to scan in all of the reels that I have that I've been wanted to share with everyone. So this project was featured on Hackaday, Instructables, and Arduino, because they also found it interesting. And one of the funny things about that was I didn't even know that this project was featured. I was at work one day and someone walked by and said, "Congratulations." And I had no idea what they were talking about. And they showed me the Hackaday website, said I was featured on Hackaday for one of their rewards, which was pretty odd that they didn't even notify me that I was being presented on there. But anyway, this project took off, and this is the new channel, the Reel 3D channel. I encourage you to check it out. I always upload a cross view and a parallel view, and then we'll be also integrating some more video features that I'll tell you about in just a little bit. Right now we have a little over 100 reels, but we're going to have a lot more to come very soon. So
sorry, on the left, okay, you're good. But on the left, there was a Zoom, like there was a gray box for us because I think that was the Zoom window.
I did not see that, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Continue.
But if you see it again, let me know. I'll try to clear it somehow. All right, so let me switch over to the new scanner. So this is a scanner that nobody has really seen. And it's basically the old scanner, the Rev 1 scanner sitting on the center of a CNC machine. And of course, we had to have some googly eyes for it as well. So I'm going to walk you through this new scanner, how it works. This is a pre-recorded video. I have the actual scanner here ready to go for the after party if you want to see it actually work in real time. But this is a
you got that box again to the right.
Yeah, you just moved it slightly, but if you can, so to the right-hand side, there's, that's showing up as gray for us. I think that's probably another one that's not shared. Yeah.
That's funny. Okay.
Looks good.
Where you had it's less of a bother though. So if you need to do it that way.
No, that was fine. I didn't know it would do that. So let's get this video rolling. and I'm going to talk over it. So the reel we just place on top of the reel scanner. It has a little indentation mark on this part over here. I don't know if you can see my mouse or not, but and then we put the magnetic ring on top of it. So this is the application I designed for it. It's pretty simple to use. I'm pretty happy with it. It uses computer vision to know exactly where the reels are and where the slide is, so it can align everything perfectly. So when we started, you could watch the left side. It's going to get into place and center on the reel. And then it's going to automatically rotate the reel so it's an up-down position. The blue line that you see in the center is where my crop line is. So it'll find the center of the reel and the outer rim of the wheel. You could do some minor adjustments here. These are 1/10 of a millimeter adjustments. You can see it moving very, very slightly in the video there. But once that's all lined up, you can continue and it remembers its position. So I also categorized everything. So when I get a new reel in here, I could zoom into the reel to see exactly what the text is, because sometimes it's hard for me to read the reels just with the naked eye. So this allows me to really get in tight on some of the text of the reels. But it makes it easy for me to categorize everything and be able to find everything at a later time. So now that we have everything categorized, we'll say that it's a Sawyer, an old style Sawyer reel there. We'll continue to the next part. So now the application is going to get the slide into position. And this is where you're supposed to focus the camera and making sure everything's correctly focused and in line. But the idea here is position the slide within the 2 blue lines. And once that's done, the computer can figure out where the slide actually is using computer vision. So this is a slide of a view of what the computer's seeing. It's using a threshold view to try to find the black box and try to outline everything. And it uses a threshold view to be able to automatically crop and rotate everything. So there, the computer repositioned itself, and you can see it's slowly angling it into position. Now it's using the CNC to move the X and Y position and the Z position a 1/10 of a millimeter at a time to get it perfectly aligned. So at this point, it's asking you to adjust the backlight colors. And you could adjust the brightness. You could also adjust the color. We'll do that here as well. So if some reels are faded, you could try to tweak it a little bit by adding a little bit of yellow or green into the slide to make the white look or make the white pop a little bit better.
I just want to cut in for 1 second.
Of course.
You're saying threshold view. What is the threshold view? What is it setting up for you?
Of course, yeah. So the threshold view is a binary view. It's either white or black, and it does that on intensity of light. So we could adjust the threshold so it finds the black center or the slide compared to the white background of the reel.
So it basically helps you find the edges of the mask.
It helps the computer vision find the mask, correct.
And does it have anything to do with, at that point, with the actual quality of the image? It's just for the mask? Is the threshold just for the mask?
It's just for the masking, so it can auto crop and auto rotate the images.
And the stereo, they're using stereo vision in the machine vision? Is that in the algorithm that you wrote?
I don't know what you mean by, is it using stereo vision? But
the machine vision, are you using it as stereo machine vision or?
No, okay, it does single slides.
Please continue. Thank you very much.
Yep, no problem. Okay, so now that we set the adjustments for the slide, we think it looks pretty good. We can continue on. And a lot of this process I skipped over, but it'll automatically scan through all 14 slides for you. And this is it getting the next one in position. It automatically will flip the slide so you always see it right side up, but we could see it adjusting the angle again. Then it's going to push it down and over to the right a little bit to get it back in line. And if you know how small these slides are, you know how minute of the movement is actually happening there. So now we told it, sorry, it continued and it automatically did all the other 13. It just asks you to do the first one by yourself to make sure everything's ready to go, and they don't automatically scan the rest of them. So this is it moving everything out of the way so you could easily get to the reel when it's complete. And then we move to the next part. So the next part is using the computer vision that we just talked about to automatically crop everything. You could see slide number 6 captured some of the arrow, and we could adjust that out by adjusting the threshold, but sometimes it's stubborn, and we can bring the image into Paint and crop that part out. But you also see me, I'm switching back and forth quickly here. I have a little switch view here. And so I could look at the right and left sides of each image real quickly, so I can make sure everything is positioned correctly. So this one needed a little bit extra help to get that black arrow out of there. The algorithm was looking at that black arrow as part of the slide for some reason. So still some adjustments, but you see once I did that, the slide here snapped into position. So now the very first thing that it did was it captured an image of the entire slide, I mean the reel. And so it automatically did the OCR to get all the text for each of the reel. Now let me back up just a little bit. You can see on the right side over here, they're a little bit light. So I adjust the threshold again, and now I could figure everything out. One thing that OCR is really bad at is figuring out what numbers are. So here it says 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 ignition. It didn't know what the numbers were, so I have to go back in and add in numbers. But once we do that, everything is good, and we can continue to the final slide or step, which is building each of the slides for us. So right now, this is in cross view. So I'm looking at I'm free viewing these, cross-eyed looking at these and making sure everything is lined up and in position pretty well, and that the text looks okay. So right now I'm looking at it in 3D, and if everything looks good, all we have to do is select continue, and we get our output of all the slides. So it does all that for us. Okay, everything looks good. Continue here. It'll build the slides for us, and we can switch over and look at those. And there they are. So once that is complete, then we're off to, let me show you an output. So we're back to something like this on one of our pages. We could look at the Rockefeller, and the output has, or once we put this in a video format, it has a music background, and it also has the slides changing when it goes to the next slide. But also all the images are cleaned up as well. I use various tools to clean up the images. Some of them are AI tools. Jim showed a slide earlier with Superman in it. I could put that through an AI recolorizer, and it actually looks really good when it comes out. But there's a lot of different tools that we use to try to get the images as crisp as possible. So that's the output that we're going for. And like I said before, we try to output everything as a parallel and then a cross view. But in the future, on these next releases we're going to do, we also have an Oculus output, and we have a volumetric output as well that we're going to start uploading. And if you haven't seen volumetric output, I'll show you right here. This is another artificial intelligence tool that figures out what happened in between two images. And I'll just play it for you, but you can move the images around, and it looks like you're in a little 3D looking glass type view. So it's pretty neat to use, and this will be fun for quick video uploads or like TikTok videos or something like that. So we'll be doing that in the future. And this is Josh Gladstone's webpage that he did, and this is one of the reels that I scanned in, and he converted it to volumetric. So a lot of cool things happening. I'll be here for the after party as well, so we could look at the scanner more in depth. But one of our goals is to have one of the most complete libraries of reel or ViewMaster reels available. So if you go through a categorization library and you want to look at to see what this reel is, you'll be able to click on it and go to YouTube and actually watch the reel. So that's one of our goals, something we're building towards. And that is it, Mr. Johnny Laser.
Thank you. Now, that was fantastic. It's certainly here. I'm sure there's questions brewing. I hope everybody wrote them down. That's why I kind of wanted to chime in a little bit, because there were a few things that I don't know if I would remember at this point. But now that whole process, how long does it usually take from start to end, from one reel?
The scan is quick. It takes less than 3 minutes to scan one. But the real work comes in when I'm trying to remove scratches or dust.
Mm-hmm.
Dust is crazy. I don't understand it. I could brush off and blew off the reels, and then I scan it and there's still dust on it. I don't get it. But any case, so there's a lot of work trying to get the reels very clean, and then there's a lot of work trying to the post-processing, trying to get the images clean as well.
Have you found any AI stuff that helps with those when you have, because I've confronted that same problem. I eventually, maybe before the end of the show, I'll put the link to our what I did with the World's Fair, and basically took all of those and scanned them. It was very difficult to actually clear dust, because if anybody's done that, they know even the automated programs, at least up till now, when they use infrared to look at the surface, I forget what they called it, digital ice, right? You ever heard of that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Problem is with Kodachrome, it's not that great because of the emulsion surface. But the problem really becomes when you have a dust on one side and dust on another spot, and you try to clean them in stereo. For some, obviously for obvious reasons, they don't clean up easily. With AI, do you see a way of doing that more efficiently with AI?
Yeah, sometimes the AI works really well, and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
So I use some artificial intelligence for dust removal and scratch removal, and overall it does okay. It's not at a level yet where it's perfect. I prefer to use manual tools. So one that I'm using right now is called AKViz Retoucher. So I use that tool to remove scratches and dust manually. Usually, sometimes I have a subscription with an API or a web API for removing dust on AI tools, and I'll try it, but I get varied results. It's not very consistent from my experience yet.
Yeah, it's one of those things you do it, and then you come back later and go, I'm done. You say I'm done. Then you come back later and go, there's a few more. I'll just do them. Okay, I'm done. You go back, okay, just a few more. It took months, probably maybe over a year to finally get that all of those reels done, and I would never do it again in this lifetime. Just like I just don't have enough lifetime left. That's one of them, run out of inventory. So but
it is a lot of work, yes.
So I just want to get down to the scanning, and then we'll move on. So about 2 or 3 minutes to put it in. Now, have you ever? Obviously, you've thought about an automated processor, but that makes it way too complicated, right? I'll just put in the
Well, I started building that a way where you could just put a stack of reels and let it scan overnight. The problem is, again, the dust. I need to make sure the dust is clean before I scan each reel. But also the automated system, the automated scanner that I have right now, it doesn't always complete perfectly. So maybe 1 out of 20 reels, it'll get stuck. The computer vision thinks it sees something that it doesn't, and it won't know what to do, and it kind of breaks out. So it's still a work in progress in some cases.
So rather than automated, a slave would be helpful.
Well,
because it gets to the point where automation, somebody, you need a human somewhere involved.
That's me, yes.
Yeah, that's the part you can't buy. You're way too expensive. Look, questions are coming through and everything else, but why don't we just wrap it up, because I could keep doing this forever, and I'm sure people have better questions than I can answer. You've been fantastic. So let me wrap this part of the show up, and then we'll go into the after party. So again, I want to thank this week's guests, Jason Altis, and of course Joe Pedotto and Paul Hutchins for their great work, Martin Shube for his assistance, and please join me in a round of applause for the crew that makes this all possible. Incredible amount of work. You probably have an idea, but you really don't have any idea. We worked right to the last minute to make this. It's incredible. It always astounds me that this many people who have this much ability have problems with the simplest things, which tells me that life is really hard for the rest of you folks out there, because we can get stuff to work finally. I can't imagine what you guys do. Anyway, but I would put nails in the window so you don't jump out after you do this stuff for long enough. Anyway, and last but not least, I would like to thank you for stopping by to see what you've been missing in 3D. Now we change gears and head off to the after party with Dave Camo and friends, where great minds meet. See you later. Roll the credits, Mr. Harp. I love saying that. And thank you for running the engine room there. Thank you.
All right, fantastic. All right, big round of applause for the Johnny Laser. If I can remove his spotlight, there we go. As he goes into his hyperbaric chamber, huzzah for Johnny and for all the guests and everybody for putting all the work into putting on the show, and also for being a great audience. So this is the after party. So this is where we're going to have a little Q&A, and then we'll also talk about other stuff in 3D. So just in a second, I'll probably allow people to unmute, and so you can ask questions in an orderly fashion, or put your questions in the chat. And I'm just going to share this little screen over here real quick. So again, this is the kind of the supplemental page for this week. So you can come in here and see more about spatial and VR and our space. And again, if you like something about the show, or you didn't like something, or you really want to have some content in the future, we're always looking for interesting 3D content. So really let us know here. Also go and check out the clubs. And if you want to go and watch the StereoPix rooms later on, you can go and click in the main thing and do full screen if you want. Here you use the arrows to kind of arrow through the images if you want to watch them later. And then down below, so some of the links that Jason showed is his Real 3D videos YouTube page. The Code Makes It Go with his other projects, his articles on Hackaday and Instructables. And then I tacked on another ViewMaster scanner that uses a smartphone from our friend Julius Howlett. And so he's got the files at Thingiverse if you want to go check that out. We've got some other news, like this Looking Glass portrait is still on sale. It's $100 off. So instead of $3.99, it's $2.99. With my shameless referral code, you get 10% off. So you get $270, and that's this device here that we talked about in the past. And then a bunch of other kind of miscellaneous hodgepodge of info down there. So I will stop my yammering, but I'll start off the questions, I guess, for Jason, if you can. Where is Jason? Let's see if he's still oh, there you are. Okay. So you're muted. Oh, I need to allow people to unmute. Allow participants to unmute. Okay, cool. I was wondering, what is the resolution of the image that you are scanning?
Let's see. I'll look one up right now. I'm using the 4K camera. Let me look at one that was just scanned.
I know there was a little bit of like kind of, I had told people that it was a scanner and they said, well, it's not really a scanner. And I said, well, camera scanning is it? So you may have
Sure.
heard that.
So each image, each slide is scanned in at 3,264 by 2,448.
Would you say 3064 by?
3264 by 2448.
There's a question in the chat about what is the make and model of the camera?
Could do one better. I could even drop in the Amazon link for it.
Only if it has an affiliate link, so you can get some.
So Jason, are you a genius?
No.
I mean, it's mind-boggling to me, what you've done here. Long a fantasy of how do you digitize classic ViewMaster, captures. What is most amazing to me is the amount of detail you are capturing.
Oh, I appreciate it. Yeah, I try to take care in the post-processing, getting the images as clean as possible. The AI tools are helping a little bit, but I think they still have ways to go till they're perfect. But I really appreciate that.
And so is this a government funded project? Is our tax dollars pay for you to do this?
No, it's just it's just the instead of going to bars and spending stuff on sports, I spend it on projects.
Well, I just have to say how appreciative I am. I'm sure the entire 3D community as well. I did not know of you. I did not know that this amazing technology existed. I mean, it seems like it's a combination of several technologies really together in order to that you brought together for this.
Oh yeah, it was. You know how projects go. You start off with the first idea, and when you climb that ladder, you can see a little bit further. So you build on top of it, and you keep doing that over and over. And that's how I got version 2 here with the CNC machine. So it's getting cooler, but also more expensive. If anyone's curious, the entire machine cost a little bit over $500.
Oh my God, boy! Talk about DIY.
Plus a lot of skilled labor to put it together. I mean, that's the other thing.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time. I built 2 of them. The second one took me about a month to put together, even knowing the pathway. So yeah, it takes
You got to value your time at least 10 an hour, right? So I mean,
yeah.
Was that a working CNC machine, or was it just a one that didn't? I guess it has to work, right? Like it's a.
Yeah, it works. It's I modify the CNC, so I bought the CNC. It's called a 3060, or maybe it's something else, but I could also put that link in the description of what the CNC is. But it's a small little hobby CNC, and I modify it to hold some cameras, and it works pretty well.
How much does it cost?
I'm curious, are there any reels you're really looking for? I know there's some very highly sought after ViewMaster reels. I believe there was Kennedy's visit to England that had some shots of JFK. I don't know if you're interested in sort of the collector side of looking for really hard to find reels, or that's not so much your focus.
It's all my focus. I want to collect what other people want to see, not necessarily like keep the reel for myself, but be able to just scan it in and share with the world, other people. So if there are some rare, I know there are, but if there are access to these rare reels, I'd love to be able to scan them in, share them with the world, and return them. I don't have to keep everything, but some of the ones I really like are the US military ones for the plane distance. I think that those are kind of cool. I also have some medical ones, an autopsy of a body and everything. So it's some things like that I think are interesting.
You ever get any of the commercial reels from the 50s? A former member of ours who's fortunately passed along, Sheldon Aronowitz, had some wonderful, advertising reels showing a grocery store, they would make their own reel to, advertise their chain. Some of those were just absolutely priceless little cultural artifacts.
Yes, I love those. There's some Shell stations, and I've seen them on eBay, but they go for like $300 a reel, and that's a bit out of my price range to grab on stuff.
Walter Sig is handling Sheldon's estate, and I think he has a lot of that stuff on sale or whatever. It would be wonderful if Walter would package up the Viewmaster reels, send them off to you in the mail, and then get them back for his sale for Sheldon's estate.
Hey, and the benefit is he'd get some nice images for his ads too, for his listings.
Yeah,
So it'd be a
exactly.
win-win. No, that's good to know, because Sheldon, I saw some of Sheldon's treasures, and they were just these wonderful, one-offs and advertising reels and things like that. Just amazing.
Yeah, Sheldon and I were roommates for many years.
Cool.
So he would bring this stuff to the NSA conventions, and I was going, wow, 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 wow. And just admired it.
Can I ask, is there a short list of most desired, most rare Viewmaster reels?
Are you asking me or?
I have the answer. The Thunderbirds.
Yeah, man.
I have the Thunderbirds.
You? Oh.
Listen, how about Fireball XL5? Sorry, I'm chiming in.
They don't exist, but Supercar. Yeah, I think the
only Supercar. Wow.
The reel's name is Carnival, and there's 3 different TV shows from that era, but one of the reels is Supercar, and then there's Stingray and Captain Scarlet, all of which I would love to have, but I don't.
I'll take a dream. How about I Dream a Genie? We need one of those, huh?
Sheldon told me that he had a test reel of All in the Family, which was never released, but somewhere in his archives, he had it. I don't know if that's where that reel is now, but that, Peter, that's a good question to ask if they have that.
Yeah,
one.
and that's priceless, because I remember him telling me about that. They were going to release a reel, they decided not to, and they had a prototype of it. I think there were a couple of prototypes Sheldon had of stuff that never got put out.
Oh, wow.
I think I saw that one year. I think I saw that when he brought it to a convention, just the All in the Family ones. I believe he brought them. So yeah, they did exist.
Well, that's pretty amazing.
Have you heard of Wolfgang Sell? The man named Wolfgang. They have huge Viewmaster collection, and they have a website for Viewmaster. They might be people you could talk to.
A quick one for you. With your algorithm, does it, if you take a regular image, in other words, a stereo pair, can the algorithm reduce them to the size? Is it able to, in other words, not using a scanner, but using a software to take regular image and turn them into reels?
The reverse process you're talking about?
Mm-hmm. Oh no, just basically just taking a 35 millimeter style or a stereo reel style and kind of quickly make a left and right that can be shoved into that can be recreated as a Viewmaster reel. It's a side question.
Yeah, no, I mean, who is it? There is someone who does that. Who basically they do film printing where they print an entire reel as one piece of large format film with the scans. I forget I'm sure someone here knows about that.
Yeah, they give one of those at every convention. You get one of those reels.
Turn it into a duplicating machine.
Image 3D, isn't that Image 3D who does that?
Yeah, that's it. That's the one. Yeah.
But poor Jason's going to be inundated now with thousands of reels coming in. I hope. What do you mean? A protege like me who's retired and just sits watching TV most of the time, who can just sit and do this all for you. But I live in Toronto, which is a long way away. And
hey, if you want to contribute to this channel, maybe I can send you a scanner or something, get it done.
okay, are you intending to sell your scanners in any minor or major way?
No, I the reason I sold one, and it wasn't because I wanted to, is because he really wanted it. But being the cost of the components are a little bit over 500 just to build it. I don't really see much room for profit or anything because I'd have to charge like over 1,000 for this, and I'm not sure who would want to buy it for 1,000.
Maybe club,
I'm
stereo
willing to
clubs.
volunteer. I'm willing to volunteer right now, Jason, that I would buy one for over 1,000, and I would take in reels by mail, do them, and send them back to the recipients. Having said that, I hope I don't get inundated myself if you agree to all that, but I do have the time, and I'm a big fan of reproductions of the great stuff for all of us to admire, to be handed out on for free CDs or something.
Yeah, I love that because a lot of people remember some slides that they saw as a kid, and they just reminisce over, oh wow, you don't have just one, you have the complete set. So it's pretty cool.
A historical archive for the Smithsonian or whoever collects stuff like that would be wonderful, like with Fisher-Price's permission, because this will be lost over the years if it isn't captured properly, like you can do it.
Yeah, I was talking to a guy that works at Fisher-Price now, and he sent me pictures of the original machines that create the reels, and he said that he still has a lot of people there, or a few people, but they're slowly disappearing, if you know what I mean, of the original people making the reels and everything. So he has a lot of knowledge. It was interesting to talk to him. I put my email in the chat if you want to contact me later. We'll see if we can make something work.
Okay, I'll shoot an email over to you, see what happens. But thank you very much for bringing that to our community and to the world, really, as an archive purpose. Congratulations.
I appreciate it a lot. It wasn't intended to be like that, but it kind of just, a lot of people got some interest into it, more than I thought, and it's growing into something, so it's fun.
The other side thing is what to do about the booklets. That's
yes,
too, right? So yeah, and then how would those kind of come along? Would you just scan those normally, I guess?
Yeah, I'd probably put those on a flatbed and just do the OCR to try to get an artificial voice to read them for each slide. So I could automate a lot of that process. I don't want to do it manually and read out everything. Plus my voice isn't a radio voice. So
perhaps let's do to something like this. We've got 36 people whose voices might not be the best, but it would be fun to have somebody's voice in the future too, where the average age of the group is skewing higher. So in 10 years it'd be nice to have somebody's voice recorded.
Oh, that is true. But yes, the booklets are a major thing of how do I incorporate that into the videos. So looking for ways to do that.
Bob, were you going to say something?
Yes. So I'm curious why you didn't approach it by just using a flatbed scanner to scan the whole thing at once and using software to align and rotate the images. Is it just a resolution thing because your camera's got a much higher resolution than a flatbed, or just because your background with controls, this is the way you decided to approach it?
So I was taking examples from other people scanning in 8mm film and converting them into video, and I saw that they were using cameras. So I went down the same pathway, and afterwards some people approached me and said, why don't you just use a scanner? So I bought a pretty nice scanner. It's a Epson V600, and so I did some, and I thought, hey, this will be a lot easier. I could just put a bunch of reels on there, scan them all at once, and then I get the software to go through them all. But it didn't turn out as well as I thought. One, it took forever to scan at a very high resolution. Two, the backlight didn't work very well illuminating the film, which I find kind of odd because this is supposed to be able to scan film, but every once in a while you see lines through the image, and it's because of I guess it didn't synchronize with the LEDs on the backlight or something like that. So I'd have to rescan them as well. But I'm gonna make a video comparing the two between a scanner and a camera to compare the differences, because it is interesting, the differences between them. But overall, I feel I get a better image using the camera because it's a little bit softer, if that makes sense. It doesn't have the harsh grainness that you can see with the scanner for each of the slides in a ViewMaster reel. Because if you really zoom into a ViewMaster reel, the slides look terrible. They're like chipped and have little creases everywhere. And it looks like old paint. But the camera kind of smooths some of that out, and it makes the post-processing a lot easier, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Yeah, they were just incredibly grainless, most of these images, and I was wondering, is that in your processing, or is that through how do you?
Yeah, it's mostly the camera doing the magic for me. It's using a sharpener, but it's de-sharpening the images a little bit. Sometimes I have to increase the sharpness in post-processing, but because of that, I get a very little bit of color bleeding, which fills in some of the gaps of the graininess of the slide. So I'm cheating in a way. There's no algorithm that I'm using to do that. It's just the camera that I'm using. It's the way it is. Just happened to work.
So on average, could you say how long is the post-processing to clean and everything before you can actually put it on YouTube?
So usually like a set of 3, I can get a set of 3 within 20 minutes, kind of cleaned up. If I do a good job dusting and cleaning them off, and they're in relatively good condition, sometimes I purchase like a grab bag of reels where they don't know what's in it. It's just a box of reels, and some of those are damaged to the point where it's not worth my time of scanning, because it could take me 45 minutes to clean up, and I'll find the same reel a couple weeks later if someone else is selling it and it looks like brand new. So I'm being more selective of which reels I actually purchase now. Like if they're in the booklet and they have the case with them, I prefer to get those, even though they cost more. It saves me a lot of time in the post-processing. Did I answer your question? I got sidetracked.
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
I'm curious, have you been able to recover any audio from the audio? I see you had a sound ViewMaster. I know that was pretty grungy audio on there, but have you attempted to capture that?
I
It's
have.
a whole other can of fish, of course. But
Yes, I would love to capture those. I have been working on a little record player to capture those sounds digitally, instead of through the little passive diaphragm that they have in those players. So yeah, that is a project in the background, because I have quite a few of those sound ones as well, and I think the audio from them is something we should also try to archive. It's pretty cool.
so are those are little records, like little vinyl type? Do they need a special player? Obviously, they're probably not 33 RPMs or.
No, they're very slow. I don't know what the RPM is, but they rotate very slowly. But yeah, they're just clear records to allow the light to pass through.
Yeah, no, that'd be fascinating. Definitely talk about historical preservation.
Yeah, definitely.
Those would make really great like VR immersive experiences with the 3D and then the sound of from the actual reel.
Yeah.
Jim has made a couple like Star Trek worlds that have the VR or that have ViewMaster slideshows in them, and those are pretty.
Yeah, unfortunately, Altspace's demise kind of. I've yet to have the time to recreate them, but I had an Altspace world where you basically were standing over a physical model of the Enterprise, and then the ViewMaster reel was advancing as you stood there.
Oh, neat.
Someday to be redone, and probably with you'd have better scans of that material.
Well, that's really cool. I think it's kind of I kind of think we should keep the graininess of the sound for nostalgia reasons, but if I perfectly cleaned it up, is this the same thing? It's not what I remember as a kid, but so I kind of like the graininess of the sound and the scratchiness of it. So it's kind of neat to have that.
I agree completely, Jason. I remember my memory is what I want to recapture. Remastered things from old people doesn't sound like I heard them.
Right.
And I completely agree with that concept. It's our memory we want to capture, not the perfection.
Yes, yes.
And I'm curious, and this is kind of a question for anyone who's on here. Does anyone know if any of the original, film? I know a lot of these reels were captured originally on either 35 millimeter or medium format cameras. And, Viewmaster, of course, went through a lot of hands. The company was sold and resold. It'd be interesting to know if any of those original, any of the original film stock still exists, because it'd be quite fun to get our hands on some of those. But I've never heard of anyone finding any of that stuff.
When Sheldon and I had this project, when we did these, so we sent in, we didn't shoot them this size, but we sent in the 35 millimeters, which we actually shot with most of my shot, with a stereo realist or a dual camera. And they took them that way, they masked them, they created these, and then they sent me back a booklet of all those originals that were all masked off. And they also required us to sign a document which gave them copyright perpetually. And of course, I accidentally didn't sign it, so that solves that problem. But I would imagine there are some copyright things associated with that. And I would wonder if they do have an archive, because they sent those back, but they must have a scanned archive somewhere. Could you imagine if they demolished? I'll stop. But that's the process. That's what I went through. We sent in the whether they were realist or they were 35 millimeter, they masked them, they created that, they sent it back for approval, it went back to them, and then they sent me back the originals, which I have here somewhere along the way. That's how that process, at least from my experience with that process.
Also, I'm curious, have you scanned any reels taken with a Viewmaster personal camera? I had one of those when my kids were little. I shot a bunch of Kodachrome through it, and one of these days I'd love to capture those slides because I got some really nice shots. And the Kodachrome, even given that it was such a small size, it still really, really came out nicely. I've tried scanning them myself on a flatbed, but it'd be great fun to see how much I could get out of those old shots.
Yeah, I have. Let me show you one. Because some people ask me the same question. It's like I have these old reels that my grandmother took a long time ago, and we're not able to view them. And so they send them to me. I scan them in for them and make them into videos for them. So I did that. I've done that a couple times. Let me share one that. Oh, here we go. Right, I'll share my screen here. So this is some scans of their wedding that they took with their Viewmaster. And so I made 3 separate videos for them. One which is the singles, and then another one as the oh, didn't intend that to happen. Let me try again.
Yeah, those looks great.
Yeah, so another one with so this was their original reel, going through it, but yeah, so these are the ones that people took, and they turned out really well. I didn't have to do much cleanup on them. They were surprisingly well preserved. But
and I would imagine they were on Chrome also, Kodachrome.
Yes, yeah, because the colors were still alive when we got to them. But I just thought it was cool. They had a nice old car in there, so I liked seeing that.
That would have been a bit for Kodachrome advertisement. Kodachrome, color that the color that would outlast you.
Exactly. Yes. So to answer your question, yes, I do personal slides as well.
That was a 56 Chev, by the way. I used to own one of those.
Oh, lucky you.
Yeah.
You should have kept
How
it.
old
huh?
I am.
What's that car in your background? T.
I don't know, but it's that anaglyph from the Niagara Falls Bridge, customs going over to US. I put it on there for the Buffalo show because just Niagara Falls Rainbow Bridge customs in 1923, I think it was. Just it wasn't a stereo. I had to convert it into 3D, but it looks pretty good.
Thanks for letting me present to you guys. It was a lot of fun, though. Hope you enjoyed it.
Absolutely, Jason.
Can I share my, I'm going to share my screen real quick. And like, this is pretty random, but I was just kind of clicking around. But here's this website that has a little, so it's basically you're building a digital ViewMaster. And so it's got a little LED screen back there. And so I guess you have a stereo pair back there, but you 3D print this out. And I thought it was funny that they also have the eyeballs.
Yeah.
So is something that people do? Like,
guess so.
what made you, oh, what was the other, was there another camera on there to the right-hand side? Did I miss?
It's two of the same, two 4K cameras. One captures their entire reel and the text, and the other one captures the slides. So they have two different lenses on them.
Oh, okay. Okay. So sort of like when people get the corrective surgery and they focus one eye at one distance and then the other eye at the.
Yeah. I tried to make it with one, but it was, I couldn't get the focus correct on the slide, so it was just easier to buy a second one.
It adds gravitas too to have the two eye. We appreciate it a lot more, certainly. And so if anybody has any other things that they're related to 3D or has any questions or anything, there's the LoomPad Auto Stereo Viewer, which can, I think it can, I guess it can automatically show like Jason's channel, and all of the 3D stuff on there would work correctly, right? Somebody who has a LoomPad. So I think you on this Android tablet, you would go to the YouTube page, you would say share to YouTube. And then
But now, wouldn't that be doing a conversion? In other words, or you can actually share, if you share a 3D YouTube video, it does not to convert it, but to show it as is.
Well, I think what happens is it starts to play, and then there's a little button at the top right-hand side. It says converting, but then it's because we're special and like nobody else is really, like not a lot of people use 3D, but so it says converting, but then at the top right, you can say, I'm actually giving a stereo pair, and then it'll like sort of switch. And then you can just look at the 3D yourself. That's $1,000 right now, so hopefully they'll have a sale and it'll be cheaper.
Yeah, they seem to have settled into 500 on eBay. Like you can usually find one for 500 just in terms of the secondhand market. That seems to be the going price for one used.
Okay, right.
I have a question, only because I have no experience of talking ViewMasters. What was the content like?
What do you mean by content?
Well, on a talking ViewMaster, would there be music? Would there just be straight narration?
I could go grab one and show you real quick, but it's like for the Star Trek one, it would have a background Star Trek sound, and then it'd have the characters talking. So it'd be like you're watching a cartoon or something.
Like a little radio play.
Yeah. Would you like me to go grab it? I could, if you guys got a minute, I could grab one.
Yeah, sure. And you can see on my screen too, like this is he'll probably show you, but see the little, so that's a little record, basically like a disc that's sitting on top of like it's attached to the reel, and then it'll play it and kind of like you mentioned that diaphragm. So it's kind of a low tech.
Oh my God. So
Play-
it's actually the same technology that would be used in a vinyl LP. It's a
Exactly.
little groove, yes?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, Joe, I'm curious, do you remember from when we were kids when they used to put records on the back of cereal boxes? You know, as like a, or maybe am I dating myself that I'm older, but I do remember that being a kid. You
I
could get a
remember
cereal
that.
box with a, you know, like an Archie's record or a Partridge Family record that was actually on the back of the box.
Sometimes
cut it out
even
with
a
scissors and play
magazine,
it.
Sometimes even a magazine might have a promotion where there was
Yeah.
in where there's an insert you could take it out. For most of my life, that was my goal in life, was I wanted to make one of those. I didn't really have any idea of a song or what was going to be on it, but I just loved that technology. So and was that the same technology of that kind of that era for the talking dolls? You would pull a string and they would say,
I think it is, yeah. I had an alarm clock, like a Sesame Street alarm clock that I took apart, and it was Oscar the Grouch, and he would say like, "Hey, wake up!" Blah blah. Here is an actual scan of the Planet of the Apes. Let's see if it's like all scratchy.
Frightened by a barking dog, Pharaoh, a human, scrambles up a tree. Arno, a young chimpanzee, calls off the dog. What is he to fear from a mere human? Suddenly, a blast of wind, a roar, then a crash. Pharaoh looks in wonderment. Arno turns and runs back to Chelo, his village, to report.
Yeah, it's awful.
It's awful. Yeah.
but it has wonderful retro appeal, don't you think?
It does, yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, I have
Wow, it's quite a unit.
Yeah, let me turn off my background blur thing.
Joe. Yeah, I found like if you pretend it's part of your body, then sometimes that helps. Like if you kind of like shift in.
There we go. So yeah, I got Superman in there right now. It's just a clear disc. I'll play it.
Yeah, please.
I think it's getting swallowed up by the Zoom cancellation a little bit.
Oh, is
Yeah,
it?
it's so noisy that Zoom thinks it's just noise.
Yeah,
I think you
Zoom
gotta
probably
press
thinks-
that little
Zoom thinks it's the
musician
truck
thing.
driving by. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's and sometimes when I was scanning these, I could just pop the record off the back and scan them. They're just they're the original reels, are not anything different from the original reel you get. They just get a little record stamp onto the back of them.
And you mentioned that they play very slowly. What is the power source? 2D batteries?
2C batteries.
No, 3D batteries. I'm leaving after that one.
So is the record, looks like, is that like a diffuser for the light? Because you're looking at the picture through that, through the record, right?
Exactly right. So that's why the record's clear, so you can see the light pass through the slides.
So the grooves are tiny enough that you don't see them, or they're just out of focus.
Yeah, no, that's the grooves there. I guess they're kind of just like a little record.
Any guess as to what the RPM on that would be?
I could calculate it for you, but let me just see if it's.
What was the age on the box? You had them up there. What was the age suggestion for that device? Did anybody have an original box that says it? Or did they even do it back in those days? Just bought it, right?
Yeah, I have the box. So
I'm just curious. Because all I would say is it seems to have been a lot of smarter kids around.
I remember my older sister had it, and like, so it was probably, if it was 79 or 80, I was probably like 6 and she was 8. So she was more responsible than me, I guess. I don't know.
I guess that was part of the whole thing. And by but
so
that kid.
Does it have a suggested age on it? It's okay. Could you just look on it?
Back in the day, did they put an age on stuff?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm wondering myself, Stereodoro. No, they just figured you were smart enough
Look,
to figure it out
listen,
yourself.
laugh, and learn. That's look, listen, laugh, and learn. That's the slogan of the NYSA. Look, listen, laugh, learn.
You were right on it, Stereodoro there. They figured you were just smart enough to figure it out for yourself. Oh my God, remember those days where you didn't have to be told everything? That's amazing to me.
Yeah, there's no age on it. It just says Gaff patented 1969.
This says 1960, so it's definitely older than I thought for this. I'm looking at it like a children's view. And it says ages 4 to 11, but that's just an eBay thing.
There were so many reasons why you couldn't sell one of these today. You know, they were like, I just imagine it. Imagine for 1 minute thinking, hey, if you could bring it back. And how quickly the second thought comes impossible. It's amazing because that is such a cool toy. I would still play. Honestly, I would buy it to play with if they can put new loads in there. But that day, it's amazing.
If you wanted to scan it, you could I guess you could scan the grooves, but it would be a little bit difficult, which sort of leads me to this is kind of remember the Fisher Price right? And so people actually 3D print these with different music, right? So you get a David Bowie and they have Star Wars. And so I guess if you could really print well, you could print those Viewmaster records, but you're talking more finer resolution certainly than the Fisher Price player.
Oh, definitely. I originally said I wasn't going to buy a 3D printer until they could print records, but it hasn't happened yet. So,
what about Fisher Price records? They're good enough.
I guess I could do those, yeah.
That box said GAF on it, so that was in the GAF era of Viewmaster. Huh?
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, I was feverishly looking for what the Mattel had sent me back. I could not find it, but I will bring it up along the way. What actually came back from them with the proofs and everything. And I have it in this chaos here somewhere. But anyway, we'll get to it. I'll give I tell you, my wife is up to 8,000 scans so far. She's been just wonderful and scanning negatives.
I have a question. Out of curiosity, do you have any of those 3D highlights from the Netherlands booklet? So that's usually stereoscopic photographers. Stereo photographers. Let me show you. I'm going to take it out of the plastic. It might work better. That's the one I purchased for doing a little segment on Stan White. So you have a little booklet. And then you have the 3 reels in the back. And that one shows how he used to do his little tabletop stereo pictures.
And those are regular paper reels because I dug one of these out in the meantime. My new one's on here. Oh, where is it? Yeah, like one of those that came out of. Oh, here we go. Oh, hold on a second. Is it? Which were these things? Everybody's familiar with them. So just it was happened to be laying around. Where they do the film, like you were talking, Jim.
Mm-hmm.
The 3D image.
Image 3D.
I did a wedding shoot out in Arizona for relatives, and we did did them through the service. They came out wonderfully well.
Yeah, that's nice. I did, my experience with that. I actually used the Viewmaster camera, and when we went to Disney World with the kids, they were all shot in Viewmaster. And I made the roll. Yeah, so they have no interest in it, by the way, but. But I'm sure the grandkids will. I'm sure the grandkids will dig it. I haven't broken them out yet, but I'm sure they'll.
The one that Dorothy's holding of Stan White, that a lot of those are on the StereoJet for him, the 16x20 StereoJet.
Wow.
A lot of those little images are in stereo.
Oh, you do?
No, I did it years ago, 20 years ago, and gave it to Stan for being generous enough to lend me some of his images. So,
okay.
But just so you know, I hope that estate we can get a hold of that StereoJet. It's probably still there. You might know how to contact his relatives or whatever. Anyway.
Dorothy is putting together a presentation in the next couple of weeks that we'll have with Stan White.
So I built a very very cheap scanner apparatus to photograph them. So I'm not happy with my two first attempts. So I'm gonna continue again to make it better.
How many reels do you have?
3, so 21.
Sounds like I don't know. I'm not telling you to do anything. I'm not suggesting anything to you or Jason, but 3 reels seems like well within the capacity. Maybe if Jason could find some spare time, it might save you some trouble. Far be it from me to say that to 38 people. Sorry about that, Jason. Should have waited till later. Anyway,
That's
I think
okay.
we're coming in. And if anybody has anything else, Dave, what do you think?
I think it's I think we've certainly covered a ton of fun ground, and it's a nice rainy day in New York.
Yeah, and again, I want to thank Martin Schub for pointing me in to the directions of Jason's amazing websites and YouTube videos, because that's how we ended up doing that segment today.
Well, actually, okay, yeah, it came through to you and Jay, because a lot of good folks pointed us towards him, because I'm glad they did. My appreciation to all of them. Thank you so much. You know, I forgot to mention during the main show, you were fantastic, by the way. You know, well, we have to start getting images again. And you know, Bob brought it up last week in just passing, but I kind of latched on to it and I forgot to mention it, but I'm going to mention it next week. Just send in an image. If any of you guys who are left, send in an image that we can collectively write a caption for. Something, you know, don't don't put 10 and 10, man. No, we don't got time for that. Just find one, and you can send it to info@3dnsa.org. Something that you don't mind us having fun with, because obviously you're fun people, you won't mind anyway. But something we can write a caption for that we'll put it. Well, that could be a lot more fun. But I hope that is fun. Seems fun to me. Look, what the hell is it? It's funny to me. So I guess we'll go with it. But so you got that? An image that we can write a caption for, captionless image, and we'll take care. We'll do the rest for you, or against.
It's like a New Yorker competition.
Yeah.
Well, that's something we could do via form too in the future, and we could have a form where people could, you know, submit their captions as well.
That would be so much fun, because this is one nutty. I'm a very distinguished comedic group, or just a bunch of nuts. Well, how you look at it? No, really, you'd be such fun. Well, thank everyone. I appreciate all the hard work that went into this week, and a lot did. That was amazing. That was fun. That you gave us. That was just so much fun to watch. And thank you, Jason. You were great. It took a while, but man, you were worth the wait.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh yeah, you're great, man. Well, another show has come to an end. Thanks again for stopping by to see what you've been missing in 3D. See you again next week. And until then, don't be stingy with your shutter, or your scanner for that matter. Share your joy, count your blessings, because we all got a lot of them, and share all this wonderful joy, because that world needs a lot of that. It needs more of it anyway. So I love it. I love being able to say this. Play us out, Mr. Harp. Thank you very much. See you guys later. Well, good thing I did have one or two things.